Welcome to Women's Leadership Success, episode number 142, on transforming leadership presence through strategic brand development. This two-part podcast is based on my new Leadership Brand Blueprint Accelerator and Checklist. This is my free gift to you for being a listener and a subscriber. I'm excited to be the guest today and share insights from my 30 years of helping leaders elevate their influence. Today, we're focused on the first two pillars of leadership brand development: commitment tracking and stakeholder relationships. This is what you'll learn: the weekly system that builds trust and credibility automatically, how to identify relationship blind spots before they derail your career. So let's dive into why your professional brand requires development. Just like your academic credentials and work experience are core assets, this is going to become a great asset for you. Stay tuned until the end of the show to learn how to download my complete leadership brand blueprint as a free gift to help you implement these strategies immediately.
Welcome to Women's Leadership Podcast, showing you how to influence people, improve your performance, and advance your career. Brought to you by women's leadership and career expert Sabrina Braham and womensleadershipsuccess.com. Here's your chance to meet women trendsetters leading the way to success, accomplishment, and balance in business and life. No matter if you're a manager, CEO, or entrepreneur, join Sabrina for coaching and no-nonsense advice to improve your career and bottom line.
Hey, good day, folks. This is Tim Warren, executive producer of Women's Leadership Success, and today I'm honored to be on here with my wife, host and founder of Women's Leadership Success, and we're going to be talking about a really important subject based on Sabrina's brand new Leadership Brand Accelerator course that she's come up with. And we're going to be kind of going through it and breaking it down for you so you can get a better idea of what it is, why it's important, and why you should be integrating this into your leadership development and career. Good day, Sabrina.
Good day.
Good to see you. So we're going to jump right into it, and we're going to start with, we're going to break down, there's 4 or 5 different, very specific, I guess what we call them lessons, or their modules in this, and we're going to kind of be going through it. I'll be asking questions and to give you all a better idea what's there. I've been through it. It's really awesome. You've done a great job of breaking it down piece by piece and really making it a usable tool. And I know that our discussion today will give people a little bit more context as to why this is important. So the very first part of it, does that sound good to you, Sabrina? Jump right in?
Yeah.
The very first part, the first module on this was called Weekly Commitments Made and Kept. And so my first question is why did you make the commitment tracking a cornerstone, I can't speak today, a cornerstone of your brand accelerator system?
One of the things that I have discovered over the past 30 years of coaching and consulting in Fortune 100 and Fortune 50 companies is that people can be very, very talented in their jobs, but they get so busy on that they forget to pay attention to the things that will actually help their brand, help them deepen relationships, and help them be seen as a leader in their company. And so keeping track of the commitments is one of the things, beginning things that you can do that really, really helps to begin to have you notice what you're doing and how well you're doing it.
Perfect. Well, I know that one of the core elements of a leader's brand is your reputation and how you show up at work. And so is there a story that you can share about a leader that you work with who transformed their reputation and the through, and how it impacted how their career and their leadership?
Yeah, I think for talented people, this is one of the main things that when they begin to look at this and to change it will make such a difference in their ability to have impact and change things. And I'm thinking of Kathleen, who worked at a Fortune 50 company and had been there since the beginning of the company and yet had not been promoted to vice president. And what she realized as we began to coach and talk about things was she was so intent on the goals that she had, she forgot to pay attention to the people that were there and what she needed to do for them. And as she began to pay attention to what her commitments were, how she was keeping them, and what her relationship was with other people, she began to improve that. And over time, that led her to becoming a vice president.
Wow, that's great. So this first module is speaking about commitments and honoring them as it was keeping track of what did I promise to do by when and with who. And you work with a lot of really busy, high-level leaders, got lots going on, manage big teams of people often, and you're asking them, you're recommending that they keep track of their commitments that they made in writing. So what are some of the pushbacks and excuses that you might hear from people, and how would you address that?
Well, I think the biggest one is I'm too busy to keep track of what I'm doing, which is pretty silly if you think about it. But so that's one, and not really paying attention to what the priority is, like how important it is. Over the years, one of the things that I found interesting is when I'm coaching or consulting with a senior vice president, a CEO, a CFO, a COO of a company, they're much more likely to be on time, to show up, and to do the things they said they were going to do than the people at the lower ranks are. So if you want to get to those higher ranks, you really need to start noticing the commitments you've made and making sure that you follow through and you do them in a timely fashion. Or that you say no and you don't do the thing that you're being asked to do.
Well, that's a perfect segue to the next question about you're asking people to make commitments, keep track of them, and review how did they do. And I know that you've got a really cool system to help people keep track and see where they're at. But how would your weekly review process differ if, let's say, if someone's a brand new leader versus a seasoned executive? What would be different or unique for each of them?
Okay, first, I think you mentioned it maybe early in the introduction, but this is a gift I'm giving everybody, the actual little checklist so that you can easily do these things. But it really is the same. It is the same. It's the same if you're a beginning leader as opposed to if you're one of the top leaders. Keeping track of your commitments and making sure you're doing them. If you're not doing that, apologizing immediately and really reassessing, are you taking on too much stuff? Did you not have the information you needed? What's the reason that you're not keeping your commitment?
Stuff happens. And a really good point. I mean, we're human, and being able to know internally what you promised and what you didn't do, and to be able to articulate it to yourself and to your peers would be really valuable. So when a leader does this and keeps track of their commitments and the results, what I've seen is, what's one of the greatest impacts or stories you could share of someone you've coached that did this, and what was really the outcome for them?
Well, what happens is the more you keep track of this, the more you begin to pay attention to it, there's a part of the brain called the reticular activator. It's the part that when you buy the red car, it notices all the other people that have red cars. It begins to notice similarities or things that are similar to what you're trying to do. And when you start paying attention to the commitments you want to keep, it starts making you more aware of how you can improve that, how you can update people and let them know what's happening. And it just it ups your game.
That makes sense. Well, one of the things that we do, folks, especially when Sabrina and I chat together, because she's usually the host, is talk about the topic and the questions and go over some things. And yesterday you shared something about a client I thought was fascinating about he said, well, how do you rate yourself? Yeah, your overall rating. And he said, well, I rate myself differently for each different thing. And can you remember that story? And you want to
yeah, that was talking about relationships.
No, it was how they ranked themselves. His overall ranking. He said that he ranked.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was interesting. This is a current client who's a vice president, and his overall ranking of keeping commitments was, he just said, I'm doing great. I just do fantastic at that. And I said, okay, on a 1 to 10, with 10 being the best you could do and 1 being the worst you could do, what number are you? And he stopped for a minute and he said, I'm a 6. Mm-hmm. So he laughed and I laughed. And then the next question is, so what can you do to raise it a 0.5 point? And the minute he said that, he realized there was something he could start doing right away that would really change things.
Yeah, and so I thank you for sharing that. When you shared that with me yesterday, I thought it was such a good story. That we rate ourselves differently for different things, but when he put it all together, and even though he said he was doing so good, he gave himself a 6. It's like, 6 is not phenomenal.
Right.
So that was good. So, well, the next part of this this free Leadership Brand Accelerator that you can sign up for, and I know Sabrina will share how you can get it at the end of the show. And it'll be in the show notes, by the way, as well. The next segment was really on the monthly stakeholder assessment and really how helping you to understand how you are interacting with key stakeholders. So that was the next part. And you just mentioned about the vice president that you're currently working with, and you asked him that great question, how could you improve it by a 0.5 point? And so my question is, and this is right in the line with this, is how did you choose a 1 to 10 rating scales, and what patterns emerge when leaders start using it?
Well, what we tend to do in meetings and giving feedback to people in 360s is we give them feedback, but it's somewhat nebulous. When you use a 1 to 10 scale, and it can be used for lots of things. They use it in hospitals with pain, but it can be used for anything. On a 1 to 10, with 1 being the worst job you could be doing and 10 being it is the most incredible job ever, what's your score? People are pretty consistent over time with what their scores are. And it even works for if I ask you, how am I doing on a 1 to 10, your scoring system will be the same. So what we're looking for is, where are you now and what can you do to raise it a 0.5 point forward? Using the scale makes it much, much easier to move forward than having a nebulous, I'm improving, or I think I got better. The more things we can measure, the better it is in terms of being able to get results.
So this section is about interacting with stakeholders. They could be your team, superiors, it could be suppliers, customers. But can you walk us through how a leader should conduct their first stakeholder assessment? How does someone go about doing this?
So This is very, very valuable. One of the things that you need to do first is figure out who are the 10 people in your company that most influence your work or what's happening in your department, your section. And usually people can come up with a list of, well, here are the 10 people. The next question is, how good of a relationship do you have with each one of those people? Amazingly, most people have never really thought about that. And they'll say something like, well, John is a 9 and Brian's an 8. And, well, I don't know about Sam because I really never talked to him. I guess he would be a 2. And as we start looking at that, well, is Sam important to what you're doing? Yes, he is. Does he have influence on the decisions? Yes, he does. So what keeps you from talking to him? Well, I just never thought to do it. So the question always is, what can you raise it? How can you raise it a half point? If your relationship with Sam is a 2, and I ask you, how can you raise it to a 10? Your whole brain's going to go into scramble. You're not going to have any idea how to do that. But if I ask you, you're a 2, what can you do to raise it to a 2.5? Almost everybody can do that. And so really being successful in life, getting the best results you want to get, it's not by big giant leaps. It's by these little tiny movements towards your goal.
I would imagine for many leaders, this concept of getting their stakeholders to find out for them to rate themselves with their primary stakeholders, what that level of relationship is, something brand new, and by actually doing it, it could really be eye-opening. So what would be some of the most surprising or profound insights that you've seen from clients what they discover by doing this process?
Several things happen. One is people start feeling more confident and more in control, and they're amazed that they could take a relationship that's not very good and actually change that. I'm thinking of a woman who was a vice president, and she got a new senior vice president who she never talked to her. She felt like this guy didn't like her. And she rated their relationship a 3. And at first, she couldn't even think what she would do. And then she decided, okay, well, I could actually have a conversation with him, which sounds amazing, but that's what she said. And the next week, she said that she stopped by his office, which happened to be just a couple down from hers, with a cup of coffee and handed it to him and said, Brian, I don't feel like you and I have a very good relationship. And he said, I was thinking the same thing. Mm. And she said, I would like to have a better relationship with you. And he said, I would like that too. And she said, well, what if we get together 2 days a week and for 5 minutes and have a cup of coffee? He said, I would love that.
Wow.
They went from him being a 2 to her being, they were like an 8 or a 9. She became one of his trusted confidants, people that he really cared about, because she actually just came right out and said, it doesn't seem like we have a good relationship. Mm. What can we do to improve this?
And isn't it ironic but so true that the person that she reached out to felt the same way, and the amazing synergies came from that.
Yeah.
So one of the bases that I understand of that's from that people that the Leadership Brand Accelerator speaks to is soft skills, is our ability to have empathy, to connect, to build relationships, and I love the 1 to 10 scale. And so in the realm of relationships, and especially with key stakeholders, let's say they're at a 6 or a 7, and with someone they know is really important. What would be one of the recommendations you would have to just move it up a half a point?
Well, it's pretty individual. It depends on the person or the situation. It's not, it's not necessarily one thing. But basically doing something to deepen your relationship with them, actually having a conversation, finding out about their life, finding out what they're interested in, finding out what are the things at work they're really passionate about, what keeps them awake at night. Just deepening the relationship will change the score a lot. There's always people in companies that no matter what you do, it's not going to make it any better. And so there's those people, but I would say 80% of the time, if you focus on it and you make an effort, it will make a difference. Yeah,
I think in the relationship, one of the things that you mentioned yesterday, it was the consistency. It's not, you don't change and build a relationship on one interaction, but that time and time again. And as you shared, it could be something as simple as a cup of coffee and a smile and hello and the regular things. So I can imagine if someone's never done this before and they create that list of 10 people and they go and they do a rating and they realize, oh my gosh, this relationship is only a 2. And that it could be kind of alarming. So what would be a red flag or some of the things that might show up for someone where they're doing this exercise and they realize or they have intention to do the exercise, but there's a red flag where they have a setback.
You mean like it doesn't go well? What do you mean by a setback?
Well, is that if someone says, "Wow, this person is really important to my career." Let's say that they're a director and they want to be a VP and they realize one of the influential VPs that they hardly know at all in my relationship. It's super important to them, but they're only a 1 in the quality of how they've rated themselves. So that would be kind of a red flag to them. So it is. What can someone do if they realize they've got a low score? And I mean, I could see how it could be psychologically devastating.
Yeah, well, it's wonderful if you realize it, and it's the reticular activator. Once you notice that, you can do things to change that. So just noticing it makes a difference. If possible, scheduling a meeting with a person and telling them you would like to have a better relationship, or finding out some more information can be helpful. Or if you're in a meeting with somebody that's been a 2 or a 3, and you notice that they mentioned something that you actually have a lot of information on, sending a little note and sending that information to them. The other thing is, and this goes into political strategy and also just deepening connections. If you're not sure how to break through the firewall, how to really connect with this person, figure out who's connected to them. Who do they have close relationships with? And are any of those people that you have a good relationship with? Can you go to Max that you have a good relationship with, and he goes out to breakfast once a week with Brian? Can you go to him and say, hey, I feel like I don't have a good relationship here. I'd like to improve it. Do you have any suggestions? Usually you'll get a lot of suggestions from them. Sometimes they may even say something like, why don't you join us next Wednesday when we have our breakfast? So you can call in allies to help you to improve relationships.
Yeah. The one of the things that you mentioned yesterday I thought was really insightful that can come from this particular exercise in the Leadership Brand Accelerator is if someone scored on their top 10 and they realized that everybody was scored really, really low. And then you said there's that firewall and it didn't look promising. And maybe you had tried, maybe it was kind of an aha moment for that person to realize, maybe my opportunities are, I just can't do that in this company or this department. And it was kind of the red flag was actually a revelation of an opening that, wow, I'm a talented person. I need to move to a different department, a different company. So when you shared that yesterday, I thought that was pretty profound.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to wrap up episode this episode, this part 2 WLS interview. But before we go, what can you, so if someone's starting this process and they realize that, yeah, they're technically brilliant, they've got the education, they've got the work experience, but they're getting passed over. They just don't know how to develop these leadership soft skills. So what are some of is for them to start this and maintain momentum and to start integrating this tool, this great tool you've created. And by the way, it's free, folks. So, and we're going to give you the link. What are some of the things a leader should do to really start implementing this?
Just know that you can develop your soft skills. You can get better at the way you treat your wife, your kids, the people that work for you, and the people that you work for. You can get better at connecting with them. Life can be more fun. It can be happier. You can do this. Start with this Brand Accelerator checklist and just take a little piece of it and see how that works, and then do a little more. Yard by yard, life is hard. Inch by inch, life's a cinch.
So how does your listeners and viewers get this Leadership Brand Accelerator?
Okay, it's in the show notes for Women's Leadership Success. It's also on sabrinabraham.com, and it's where else do we have it?
It's if someone goes to womensleadershipsuccess.com/leadership brand blueprint, no spaces, Women's Leadership Success Leadership Brand Blueprint, you'll be taken to a page where you will get sign up for this and get immediate access. It's a PDF document. And if, let's say someone said, hey, this is great, but I really I'm needing more work. I want to jump in deeper. What options do you have to offer them, Sabrina?
So one-on-one coaching with me, and I also have a mastermind group that works quite well too.
Outstanding. And I would also encourage people to follow you on LinkedIn. If you search for Sabrina Braham, Executive Leadership Coach, you'll show up. And I know that you've been doing some really great helpful posts and tips and putting up all kinds of stuff really on and focusing on that area of that very few coaches do spend time in or have the expertise in, and that with your background as a psychotherapist and all the work you've done is helping leaders develop those critical soft skills that helps people sets them apart. So Sabrina, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. And I look forward to part 2, where we're going to go a little deeper into this Leadership Brand Accelerator and look at some of the other components that make up this free download that you guys can get today.
Thank you, Tim.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. If you found value in what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, CastBox, Podbean, or Podchaser. It truly makes a difference in helping others discover these insights. Ready to take your leadership presence to the next level? Get immediate free access to my Leadership Brand Blueprint Accelerator at www.womensleadershipsuccess.com/Leadership Brand Blueprint. If you're looking for more personalized guidance, contact me at sabrina@sabrinabraham.com or DM me on LinkedIn about a one-on-one coaching session or about joining my exclusive Impact Executive Leadership Mastermind group. For regular leadership tips and inspiration, follow me on LinkedIn. Just search for Sabrina Braham, Executive Leadership Coach. Until next time, keep elevating your presence, advancing your career, and increasing your impact. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining your host, Sabrina Braham, on another Women's Leadership Podcast. If you have questions or comments, you can email her at sabrina@sabrinabraham.com. Since 1989, Sabrina and her team have helped hundreds of women managers, business leaders, and entrepreneurs with valuable trainings, articles, books, and executive coaching. For additional tips, interviews, and free access to Great Leaders Today mini course, visit www.womensleadershipsuccess.com.